Welcome to the Links Golf Club podcast, everybody, your weekly live show about our wonderful club and the world of golf. I am Gregory, joined as always by Cooper. Chris has some much-deserved time off, but I also have a very special guest. We have Joe Idone here. He runs the TourPicks Twitter account, a go-to resource for golf gambling aficionados everywhere. He's also the host of Preferred Lines podcast and contributor at RotoBallerPGA. You can find him on Twitter at TourPicks and his website, preferredlinesgolf.com. This week, we preview the Ryder Cup. We talk about some exciting news for our Tree Farm event in November. You are simply not going to want to miss this episode, but let's bring Cooper and Joe in here. Gentlemen, how y'all feeling in this big week?
Feeling great. Stoked to be here. I've got my USA-themed background all up and ready. We are pumped up. Yeah. I mean, after, as everybody knows, the defeat at Spey Bay, I'm really excited for the pros to give us, some redemption here, as well as in line with all of the Ryder Cup history, which is being jammed into golf Twitter's throats this week. So definitely feeling good. Joe, welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. So fired up as well. So I think I'm aligned there for what's in store this week. The Ryder Cup has been one of the more exciting events in professional golf over the last several years that they've hosted it. I think we're going to get a close one this year. It's September. It's outside New York City. It's Bethpage. It's everything that we could ask for as fans of the sport. And I just can't wait for it to deliver on Friday morning.
Totally. I am stoked. Man, this is the best golf event. I can't wait to talk about it with y'all. Before we jump in, let's get to a little housekeeping. I am very, very excited to talk to you about Gemini. Gemini is the official credit card of the Links Golf Club podcast. I don't know if you and viewers like earning basically free money for just doing things that you already do, but that's exactly what the Gemini credit card does. You can earn 10% back in crypto on any golf course purchase through September 30th. You have 7 more days. So if you have not picked one of these up, highly suggest you get the credit card. You immediately will be able to spend with it on your phone and go play golf twice a day, and you will get 10% back in crypto on every single golf course purchase through September 30th. Today, you also will get a $200 sign-up bonus. You can do that in Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and over 50 other cryptos. And like I said, between now and September 30th, you'll get 10% back on all golf course transactions up to $250 a month. And that includes spend on Hillcrest. So if you join Hillcrest as a member and you use your Gemini card, you will get 10% back on that. Also, if you join Spey Bay, you would get 10% back on that. Any Links DAO event, the Links DAO Pro Shop, and greens fees at any Links Network courses, green fees, membership dues at any course near you. Golf is still here. We are in September. We got some exciting Ryder Cup stuff to happen, but you should be playing golf as well. Card is really great. You earn crypto back instantly on purchases. Outside of golf, you also get 4% back on transportation, 3% back on dining, 2% on groceries, 1% on everything else. The Gemini credit card is an easy way for you to get exposure to Bitcoin and other crypto without ever having to buy it. Just swipe your card like you normally would and earn Bitcoin back instead of points or miles. Chris is super smart. He likes to describe this as it's almost like dollar cost averaging, like you would with any investment, but you swipe it, you get the 10% back for golf course purchases and the other ones I mentioned. So I would like to talk about the weekly spending segment here. Cooper, I don't know if you have yours pulled up. I played golf 3 times in the last week. My wife is out of town, played a couple of competitive rounds over the weekend, and I got my spending back on a glizzy at the turn. That was great. Bought a glove, bought some golf balls, paid my greens fees. So I got a good amount of Bitcoin this past weekend. Cooper, any Gemini purchases that are exciting on your end?
Paid my club dues with my Gemini card, which is always the big ticket item on there. Otherwise, definitely had some parking meter fees, which are good.
No parking tickets.
Tickets. I paid the meter in advance, being responsible, adult, which is good. Discovered that Costco does not accept MasterCard cards, so I was really looking forward to rack it up.
They don't do Amex either.
No Amex, no MasterCard. So when Gemini comes out with a Bitcoin Visa card, I'll be using that at Costco. But it's working on golf. I think I've hit my $250 back each month on golf spend. every month I've had the card. It's been great. Really love it.
Sweet. All right. Well, as you can see on the screen here, Bitcoin rewards earned and held for 1 year on the Gemini credit card have appreciated 176% on average. You're basically just investing as you spend. It is truly a no-brainer for golfers and anyone who knows a golfer. Check out the Gemini credit card at links.golf/Gemini. And we'll have that link in the show notes. All right, Cooper, up next, I want to talk to you about some exciting announcements we might have for the Tree Farm event coming up later in the year.
Yeah, you may have seen some social posts recently been out on the events page, the Links website. We have an outing to the Tree Farm. It's going to be our last signature event of the year. We've had some really great ones so far this year, but this one, we have some spots left, and it's going to be sponsored this year by Golfbreaks. So Golfbreaks has been a partner of Links for a while. Members get discounts on golf trips. It's basically like show up with your bag and your clubs, and they take care of the rest: transportation, lodging, tee times. Super awesome. And they're going to be giving out a $2,000 Golfbreaks voucher for one lucky attendee of the event, as well as $200 vouchers for every attendee. So if you were looking for a reason to go to this incredible event in South Carolina in the Highlands at this like renowned new course, and you were looking for that impetus to make the jump, this is it. $2,000 in golf travel coming your way to one person at the event, and everybody who goes is going to get $200 towards a Golfbreaks trip. They're also going to be supporting the content we'll have coming out of the event. You can sign up at linkstyle.io/events. There are a few spots left. Some questions is, can members bring guests? Yes, you can bring a guest to this event. Not everyone who goes has to be a member, obviously. Tell your guests if you're going to a Linkstyle event, why not sign up? But you can bring a friend. It's a great deal. So check that out. That is the first anyone's hearing of that now, brought to you by Golfbreaks. Really stoked on that. We also, if you've been watching the content, Ryder Cup week, we have our Ryder Cup video from Spay Bay that is live, that premiered last week. You can check that out. We'll drop that link in the show notes as well. And we are going to be doing a Links Millionaire drawing next week. So if you have your Links coin, go ahead and sign up for that. If you entered in, we'll be getting to it here, your lineups. We're going to be doing 100,000 Links coin for somebody who picked the lineups correctly. So hopefully that's you and you're tuning in here today. But make sure you collect your Links coin and get registered in Discord to be eligible for more giveaways. That's it from me. Super stoked about the Golfbreaks deal. I wasn't going to make it to that Tree Farm trip, but I might let y'all have a chance to register first. If there's still a spot, I'm going to hop on that.
Sweet. All right. Thanks, Cooper. This is just my absolute Christmas, my Super Bowl. This is my favorite event in all of golf, besides the Pro Core Championship. Besides, I can't even keep that bit up, but this is just, it's the absolute best. And I'm so excited to go on a deep dive with the Ryder Cup with both of you, especially having Joe. No offense, Coop, but having Joe here is a real treat. So Joe, can you just sort of frame up the event for us from your perspective? Like, how do you think about it as a person? How do you think about it as a bettor? Just what does the Ryder Cup mean to you?
Personally, I would agree with you. It's my favorite event to watch. It's the one that I get the most enthralled with as a person. I think we can all relate to the aspect of, the environment of team sports and the contentiousness and the fight and all of those sort of elements that we often, the Pro Core Championship or regular golf events just lack that influx and injection of spirit. And this really brings that out. Already seeing the videos today of Bryson getting the crowd fired up and trying to drive the green, and in the awesome social clips that both Team USA
on one off that tee box. Not bad.
Oh yeah, he's got that. I think he's got that.
200 club heads or ball speed. I mean,
it's just seeing the clips coming out of both sides, and the camaraderie and all those things that kind of go into it is really what makes this event special. And I think that we have two really on paper evenly matched teams, and the mystery component and variable is how much do you think home field advantage is worth. That's where the betting odds come in. That's what makes this a little bit different than, from a betting perspective, any other golf event that we see throughout the year. And it's just, I'm so fired up for it. I'm so excited for it. I can't wait for it to begin, and I will be fired up for the next one as soon as it ends.
Absolutely. I every morning, like for the past week, I've woken up and this kind of stupid part of my brain for like a nanosecond is like, oh, it's starting today. And I can't believe we still have like 2.5. Like it's too long. I wish it was here today. Let's talk about sort of our relationship with the Ryder Cup. I mean, I always knew it was around. Like I was 5 for War of the Shore, and I remember it being a big deal to my dad, who watched a lot of golf on TV. But it wasn't really until Brookline that was like the first time that I became like, I'm all in on the Ryder Cup. You have a long putt to win. You have controversy and sportsmanship. You have Tiger, obviously, who was, my favorite golfer at the time, along with everyone else. You have the ugliest shirts anyone has ever seen, anywhere. Justin Leonard still has his. I saw him wearing it on a broadcast before. By the way, there's a ton of great content on the Ryder Cup, but they're actually putting out these like 50-minute long documentary episodes. They go into deep dive on Brookline, so that was a fun. But what's your history with the event? What are your memories of the event? What are some like standout moments from the Ryder Cup from y'all's life?
Yeah, honestly, I was kind of slacking on this event up until 2023 when I caught up to the action in Rome. Obviously knew the lore that we don't perform well on European soil. So I don't have any memories, growing up as a kid watching the Ryder Cup. It just didn't hit for me the same way like the Masters did.
Sure.
But now that I'm a little bit deeper into the world of golf and more of a golf sicko, like this is the most exciting thing ever. So I don't know. I've read a lot about Tiger's history underperforming there. Like, I don't know, Joe, did you grow up with your memories of the Ryder Cup as a kid?
I'm probably more aligned with you, honestly. Like, I don't have a lot of core memories. I remember a little bit of Medina, obviously. The last two on U.S. soil, of course, in Minnesota, and then obviously at Whistling Straits in Wisconsin. Those are really where like the memories start to hit, and you get the chance, and you get people firing up, and you get the guys, even the guys who aren't playing, that are kind of, revving up the crowd to a degree. And I'm just so excited for this one because I just feel like, the influx of New York into this event is going to bring a whole nother level to this thing that, Wisconsin and Minnesota and Kentucky and Illinois and these great destinations just can't replicate with the type of spirit and camaraderie and everything that goes about being an American, especially September in the month. It's September in New York. I just cannot wait for this. And like you, I do think there was a point there where it was like it was Tiger and Phil, and you didn't get that feeling of like these guys are necessarily on the same team. And I don't think they did a great job of really conveying that. They kind of had their own rivalry and they would come together, but it never really felt like a team. It felt like the best players that were put together, versus I think the last 4 or 5 years ago, we've come a long way from both sides, probably in fueling this idea of this is a team event and we're all in this together, which is, I think, something that has been a rallying cry for fans of the sport.
For sure. Yeah. And I think what does make it special, to touch on what you just said, is that it's really the only team golf event we have. No offense to the Zurich. But like, this is, as someone who watches and has always watched every other sport sort of traditionally more obsessively than golf, even though the last 4 years I've gotten into PGA Tour like I never have been, it's a time where you're rooting for a team instead of a player. And that's what makes golf so weird, right? Like you have your favorites. Like I love Jordan Spieth, and now that Jordan Spieth isn't good anymore, I'm just kind of watching Scotty's greatness, and I might, pick up a bit on somebody for a week or so. But to have the rivalry means so much. And, the beginning of this tournament's history, it was a cakewalk for the Americans, right? It was never a competitive event. Famously, Jack Nicklaus basically goes to the GB&I team, is like, look, you guys got to bring in the Europeans. They bring in Seve's an absolute icon. Like, you know, at the Ryder Cup event at Bay, they literally had like a shrine of Seve. People were wearing Seve hats. You know, it's still, after all these years, after he passed away, it's like such a core ideology of the European team, you know, represents the heart, represents the teamwork. And the US players, like, you know, some of them seem to care. Some of them, frankly, like, don't seem like they give that much of a shit. Our best players don't always play the best. But as time has gone on, I think, like, you see, like, you know, Scotty's first Ryder Cup going, he was 2-0-1 as just a little young buck at Whistling Straits and just like bursting onto the scenes. He was bad in Rome, you know, getting that half against Rahm at the end. But like, you have a history of sportsmanship, you have a history of excitement, and I think it only gets better every year. It's becoming a bigger event. It's obviously becoming a more commercial event, but like the grandstands, the chanting that you said, like it's the time that we get every year or every other year to like get really excited about team golf. And that is really special. You mentioned New York. Let's talk about Bethpage. Obviously one of the most iconic venues in America. I you know, couldn't pick a better place to be excited of watching a major event. You know, it's had 2 majors. Now it has the Ryder Cup. For you, Joe, like, you know, we haven't had a lot of chances, obviously, to think about Bethpage as a golf course for the world's best golf courses. We always think about it as the People's Country Club, but sort of who does it set up for? Do you think there's any inherent advantages or disadvantages for either team? Do you have any ideas on, like, are they going to trick it up in any interesting ways? Just like as a venue, how do you think about Bethpage Black?
I think they could have tricked it up. I think they're going to trick it down, if that makes any sense. Like from what I've seen earlier this week and talked to a couple of people in the media who have been there, it seems like they've really kind of eliminated a lot of the penalty of the rough, which was like a major defense of Bethpage. Obviously, the greens are elevated and pretty flat, so you know, being able to come in out of thick rough and being able to spin it enough to hold those greens previously was like impossible in some spots if you're coming in with a long iron. I think it's going to open itself up to some birdies this year. I think that the idea and the notion that it is sort of the People's Country Club, like you touched on, only like galvanizes the fans that are attending there a little bit more, as it's like, this is not some like high-end prestigious Shinnecock Hills or Bayonne or something in New York that no one has ever seen before. This is a place that we can all go and play and enjoy, and now it's hosting the best players in the world, and I'm super excited for it. And like the one other thing that, you know, as I was kind of watching some of the old Ryder Cup stuff, and like maybe this is kind of like what we were talking about before, one of the reasons I wasn't like a whole lot into it as a kid is the TV product is like now there versus like I would say maybe 15 years ago, it was really hard for them to cover 5, 6, let alone 12 matches at the same time effectively. And now like they're able to do that. And I think it's going to be even better this year when you start to implement some picture-in-picture stuff and showcasing the leaderboard. And we fly to this group who's on hole 4, and 10 seconds later, we're at this group on hole 5. And it's really kind of made the viewing experience so much better. I think that, you know, I don't think it suits a power player, right? Which normally would be right up the United States of America's angle. And I think when they probably pick this course, they're like, this is going to favor us. I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I don't see a course advantage set up for the U.S. team. I think the rosters are pretty even, and I think both teams have a good balance of guys who hit it far and guys who are really accurate. I just think it's who's going to be out there, who's going to be able to control their emotions, who's going to be able to play well under pressure and deal with the environment is probably the unknown and the differentiating factor here.
For sure. And that's the intangible that, like, I think I don't know who said at the beginning, was just like the thing that we're going to have to find out is how much home field advantage matters. And if it plays out like it always does, the U.S. should win because home field advantage matters. If it's about the course, to your point, I mean, I think I read something recently that only two players in professional golf right now are gaining. It's not like a full standard deviation, but it's like a meaningful difference gaining off the tee in distance and accuracy. And those guys are Rahm and Oberg. It is no longer true that like Rory hits a shot out of the ball. Like it's no longer true that the Americans are all like the bomb and gouge and the Europeans are finesse. Like the distance and speed is pervasive everywhere now. And I do think that takes a lot away. And it's going to be interesting to see how they play. I mean, I think it is really exciting. It's a Bethpage Black. Like, you know, we think a lot about Scotland, and obviously most courses in Scotland are public. And when you go to Scotland, inevitably a conversation turns into like, why is golf in America so exclusive? Why, you know, are country clubs the best courses in America? And it's like, well, Bethpage Black is the single one that we have that is elite and public. Elite meaning like world-class golf course and public. Obviously, you have Pebble Beach and some of those, but they're crazy expensive resort courses. Like Bethpage Black is a state municipal golf course, and I'm very, very excited. Let's talk about the teams. Do you have a sense, Joe, kind of like the strengths and weaknesses of each team? We touched on it a little bit with distance, kind of honestly favoring both. Do you have any sense of what you see on paper?
You know, some of the stat stuff that I've looked at, and I think some of the setup from the last Ryder Cups is, or the very last Ryder Cup, is that the European team felt like they had an advantage in long irons, and they set up the course to kind of favor that. I don't see anything. I trust me, I dug a lot trying to like find something like months ago that I'm like, yeah, if they play it up really, if like really high rough around the greens or short grass, like who does that favor? It's all pretty equal. Even the tops, I think that the USA team has more depth top to bottom. They have the best player, and I think there's arguments to be made that they have the second best player, because I think Bryson is the best course fit of any guy here. He plays American parkland golf courses in the Northeast extremely well. This place is right up his alley. But I think the middle of the pack of the European team is probably a strength. When you talk about guys like Hovland and Oberg and those names that you mentioned there, I don't see – I give the U.S. a very slight advantage, but I think that it's pretty neutral, especially when you factor in the randomness of alt shot and foursomes and that kind of stuff, where I don't see a huge advantage either way for the actual rosters.
For sure. And it is interesting to think of the rosters, because I think the United States has what, 6 rookies? Something like that, at least first. I mean, obviously, these guys are not 19 years old, but as far as guys playing their first Ryder Cup, Europe's bringing almost everyone back except for one, and it was his brother who played 2 years ago. So there's a lot of continuity. Bringing back their captain. Keegan's a new captain. How much do we think Luke Donald's going to matter? It's very rare that we get to see a captain return on either side. It hasn't happened in a while. Do we think that plays? Like, I guess what I'm trying to ask is like, how much does a captain matter, right? Which is a huge topic this year with the whole like, oh, is Keegan going to play or not? Mm-hmm. Do you see like that? Do you feel like that gives Europe an inherent advantage, or is it a wash?
I don't feel like it gives them an advantage. I think if anything, you could consider it like in terms of matchups and pairings. I think that there is some level of uncertainty. Now there's clues out there and breadcrumbs that have been dropped, but I think there's some level of uncertainty as to what Keegan's going to do. I think what Luke Donald is going to do is much more predictable, because we've seen it. We've seen him be captain before. I think he probably rolls out a lot of the same pairings, probably deploys a similar strategy in terms of who plays alt shot versus who plays best ball. I think there's a little bit of that there. You know, it's interesting because they were really good friends. Like, do you remember the infamous picture of like Keegan playing with Michael Jordan and Tom Brady? Luke Donald's in that photo. Yep. So like they were vacationing together with their families in the Bahamas, and now they're Ryder Cup captains. So I just wonder how much have they talked? I can't believe nobody's really talked to them about this in the media center, but like, how much has Keegan like kind of picked his brain over the last 3 years in terms of what are you thinking strategy wise? And has he been able to like, you know, kind of use some of that information to his advantage or to help him? Because Luke Donald obviously did have success the last time out. So it'll be interesting. I don't think that him having experience as a captain in the last one gives them an advantage though.
Okay. Coop, how are you feeling right now? And we're going to dive into the players, but just like as a whole, do you feel, obviously there's always an advantage being the home team, but like, how do you feel right now about the United States team?
Boy, not as confident as I would like to going into, here on Tuesday. I was pretty bullish after the team selection. I was like, okay, this is a solid crew, right? There have been a couple of notes this week where I feel like the wind is blowing against Team USA. The note about them getting paid, significantly.
Yeah, what a media bomb that was.
Some drama and discouragement. Cantlay's hat is in the news again.
Is that why you're not wearing a hat today? Is that a subtle protest?
It is actually. They couldn't give me a hat that fit, so that's why I'm not wearing one here today. The paychecks. Also, I think that the history and media and energy being put out right now by Team Europe on the socials is better content, and I grew up in Jersey. I lived through 9/11. That was an incredibly powerful piece put out on the first tee by Team USA. I think Keegan set that up really, really well. That speaker whose father died from the FDNY, just I haven't cried like that in a minute. That was a great, great piece. I think there's a lot going for New York and for Team USA. But even with all of that, I think that Europe's energy is pushing past Team USA today. Now we're going to have some rainstorms. The schedule is getting mixed up. There's a lot at play. There's a lot of chaos to come. But I'm not as confident in Team USA as I thought I would be at this point.
Yeah, I talk my way in and out of it all the time. I mean, I think I sort of agree that I think the United States has an edge at the very top. Obviously, the best player in the world, but obviously Rory's pretty much right there. Rahm's pretty much right there. Bryson, you kind of put them in the tier 1.5 of golfers in the world, right? But then the more I look at the numbers, the more I get excited about the U.S. team because there is a lot of depth there. I mean, we were arguing over 17 guys being picked, for the 6. And you would have been probably relatively happy with a bunch of different captain picks. And that's sort of a embarrassment of riches that we have on a roster. And I think if you look at strokes gained or you look at WGR, on paper, the U.S. does have an edge. I think one thing that probably scares us is A, there's a lot of new dudes, and B, there's a lot of people that we just don't have familiarity with. You look at Bryson, and obviously Bryson's everywhere, and he's the most exposed golfer right now across all platforms. What do people know about Ben Griffin? Probably not that much. We haven't seen Ben Griffin play in something like this. We haven't seen a lot of these guys tested. We haven't seen them play emotional golf like that happens at the Ryder Cup. And we've seen all the Europe guys. We know what they do, right? But I do think that the bottom 6 of the U.S. team, despite maybe not feeling that way, are stronger golfers in the bottom 6 of Europe team. And, if Scotty has a bad week, if Bryson have a bad week, I think we're screwed. But if they have the kinds of weeks that we think they do, it's going to come up to the last 6 guys. It's going to come to those last singles matches. It's going to come to that stuff that you need someone like Sam Burns, Ben Griffin to show up. And if they don't, we're going to be sad on Sunday, but we hope they do. Let's talk about the players. We kind of talked about it a little bit, but sort of obviously there's some returning players on the U.S. side, everyone except for one's returning on the Ryder Cup side. Joe, who do you think is peaking right now? Who are you excited about? Who are you glad to have on the team? Just kind of walk me through how you're thinking about the individual players.
Yeah, in terms of how I'm thinking about the individual guys, I am really excited, but also reluctant about guys like Ben Griffin and Cameron Young. Those are 2 guys I'm super excited about from a strokes gain perspective, from a course fit. They're checking a lot of the boxes. Now, how much does Keegan put into that? Or does he go back to the well with Justin Thomas and Colin Morikawa more so? That's what's kind of the interesting perspective to me. Just looking at raw strokes gain data, you probably did as well, looking at all the players in the field over the last 6 months, the bottom 5 of the bottom 6 are on the European side. So it's Ludwig, Straka, Rose, Lowry, Højgaard are 5 of the bottom 6. And then Morikawa's 23rd on this list. So he's not playing very well. But that's where the depth thing comes in, where I'm a little less concerned about the new coming guys like Spawn and Griffin and Young, because they're playing really good golf right now. They're not in a situation where they won a major a year and a half ago and now they're just on the team, kind of like if someone like Wyndham Clark got on or something, right? They're getting in on something that they did 16
Brian Harmon
months ago. But these are guys that have done it very recently. So I do feel pretty good about that side of things. It's just, it's so fun to kind of speculate. And I know we'll do it later in the show about which guys are going to play with who, and especially the randomness of Sunday singles as well, how it's just, you're not picking against a player. So we could end up getting Scotty versus Sepp Straka, you know what I mean? Or we could get Scotty versus Rory, like just the unknown there.
What everyone wants to see.
I think really makes this something that I'm going to, and is fun to, but also tough to bet and feel like you have a real edge.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think is like Data Golf. I'm sure you use Data Golf and look at Data Golf. They have a great Ryder Cup hub. As always, they're on the bleeding edge of all this stuff. And one of the things they have in a forecast is predicted skill. As most of their stuff is complicated math, I'm not going to go into, nor do I fully understand. But like one thing that does make me pretty happy is when you look at let's look at the bottom 5. We're talking about Cantley, Burns, Morikawa, English, and Thomas. All of those guys are over 1 on predicted skill. This is, amalgamation of course adjustment and strokes gained and blah, blah, blah. So just think of that number over 1. Obviously, the higher the number, the better. The bottom 5 of the Europe team are all under 1, right? And you have like Justin Rhodes at 0.62 is the worst European player right now. Justin Thomas being at 1.16, being the worst. And so that's got to make you feel great, right? I mean, like you have Scotty is almost an entire full point better than Jon Rahm. Bryson is just under 0.2 from Rory. There's parity at the top, but I do think there's like a strong advantage at the bottom. And like you said, the question is going to be is like, how are the horses used, right? Like if we don't see Cam Young a lot, because for whatever reason, either boys club, blah, 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 Keegan's going to Colin Morikawa 5 matches, I'm going to be pretty disappointed, right? Now we'll see how it goes. Guys are feeling it, whatever. But my hope is that, it's like, this is basically an all-star team, right? Like if you're managing an all-star team, NBA all-star team, at a certain point with the NBA, you just throw the guys out there, they figure it out. But in a baseball all-star game, there's still some strategy. You have to deploy pitching at the right time. You have to know when to take guys out. If he is able to manage this team to their strengths and avoid their weaknesses, I still think we should win, right? Plus the home field advantage. Who's the guy that you hope gets, like, obviously other than Scotty, Bryson, who's a guy you want to see more than you think he'll get played, right? Like, 4 matches or so. Who's a guy on the bottom 6 you want to see a lot?
I would really like to see Ben Griffin a lot. Ben Griffin is 3rd in strokes gained in the entire field. I think that he's done it consistently for a long time. You could argue that pressure bothered him maybe at the Pro Tour when he kind of let that thing slip away, which was a little bit of a concern. But sure. I want to see a lot of Ben Griffin. I don't want to see a lot of Colin Morikawa. Yeah. I just don't feel like the team is galvanized around someone like Morikawa, like they are with someone like Justin Thomas, right? I feel like those two are kind of both struggling a little bit in form, but I think Thomas, in a raucous environment with the crowd, brings energy in a very positive way that some other players don't. So that pod grouping that we've seen in the practice rounds the first couple of days, where it's Bryson, Thomas, Griffin, and Cam Young, I hope we see all 4 of those guys a lot. I really think they can kind of interchange with each other. It seems like there's been some stuff coming about Griffin and Cam Young experimenting with each other's golf ball, which leads me to believe they're probably going to play together. I really like Thomas and Bryson together as a combination as well. So I hope we see a lot of that sort of pod grouping there. And probably less of like Morikawa and Spawn, unfortunately.
Yeah, same page there. Coop, who's your like the player that you can't wait to show up on TV? That you're like, you can't wait to watch play golf?
Oh boy. I think, to me, I watch all these guys. I like seeing them individually week to week. I'm really excited about the pairings specifically. I think seeing Justin Thomas and Scottie Scheffler play together is like a really good combination. Joe, you mentioned the energy that Thomas brings to some players like Bethpage, kind of counteracts the like just low key, calm, collected here at his day job energy that Scheffler brings.
I'm only here so I don't get fined.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think it's going to be really, really good to see those two play together.
You think those two get paired together?
That's my guess.
Don't step on the pairings. Don't step on the pairings.
Preview that we are going to hit that. So I'm really excited about kind of how Keegan can pair up these groups to match their strengths and kind of bring that to these matchups. So yeah, that's what I would say is my favorite. Like individually, Justin Thomas is fine. Scottie Scheffler, world number one, great to watch. But I'm really stoked to see how some of the sparks fly when you combine these elements at Bethpage.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so let's before we get to as kind of usual, whenever we have Joe on, Coop, Chris, or I sort of share our thoughts, our less educated thoughts, and Joe kind of analyzes them, gives us some criticisms and maybe some positives here. So we're going to get to that, but I do want to touch on the culture stuff because obviously it's a big storyline and I have some thoughts on this and I want to hear y'all's because, obviously when we found out I was going to Bethpage, the first thing we thought about was, oh shit, New Yorkers, right? New Yorkers are going to be loud. It's going to be like a Yankees game. It's going to be like a Knicks game. All the lead up they've had Reggie Miller on, they've had Pedro Martinez talking about what it's like to play against New Yorkers. And this European team is coming and playing against New Yorkers, right? I think the second thing that I then heard was the price of the tickets. And I feel like we're not going to see as much craziness as we expect. I don't think it's going to be subdued by any stretch of the imagination. But I don't think we're going to get I went to a Yankees game against the Mariners in 1996 and it was Foot Locker sock night. And I was sitting up on the top, nosebleeds and Yankees fans, thousands of Yankees fans rolled up their Foot Locker giveaway socks and threw them onto the field at Jay Buhner. And I don't think we're going to get that, right? I don't think we're going to get inappropriate, gross behavior, that kind of thing. And I think it's going to be an advantage. But what are y'all's thoughts of what the culture of this event is going to be? Is it going to be unlike anything we've ever seen? Is it going to be pretty straight down the middle? What impact is the cost of tickets going to have? Corporate hospitality, etc.
Yeah. As somebody who's been to a few New York sporting events, I think that it's not going to shock or surprise me, especially as a Philadelphia sports fan. At least I hope not. But I do think it will be a storyline this week, right? I think that there will be moments, there will be obscenities, there will be some energy that exceeds, the decorum of your average golf event. And for all of the ticket price stuff, I think there were a lot of giveaways, a lot of country clubs, a lot of driving ranges in New Jersey and Connecticut, got packs of tickets to give away to people. So I think we're still going to see the people out at the People's Country Club. I hope that it's not, offensive in any way to anybody, but it's gonna be loud. It's gonna be real.
Do you factor it in, Joe? How much of the model includes home field advantage from a fan perspective here?
It's interesting because it's important. And I've heard people argue that it's one of the most important home field advantage situations in all of sports. I mean, what is it? 15 out of 75% of the last 20 Ryder Cups have been won by the home team. Mm-hmm. If you look at effectively where the odds are right now, Team USA minus 145 is telling you the sportsbook are giving them an implied probability to win of 58%, right? The home team's winning 75%. To Coop's point and to your point, I don't think it gets out of control. I think that this has been a concern, obviously, from the PGA of America and the entire committee since it was announced at this location. I don't think it's going to be over corporatized. I hope I'm right on this, but from my understanding, it's a lot of just general admission tickets. Like there's a stand behind the first tee, and it's not going to be like, you know, the Amex suite and stuff on every single green where you have to have a special pass to get anywhere close to the action. I think they're going to pack it in there. I think they're going to be loud. I do think we're probably going to get, it does seem like the moments of like contention between the athletes like has been heating up when I think back to Rory and Pat at the last one and Joe LaCava. I like that stuff. I think that's a great change up for golf as long as it doesn't, you know, cross the line of being completely offensive or disrespectful. I think that is extremely good for this event. I think Keegan brings people together, and I think that not only kind of being linked to this area himself, but also the selflessness that went involved of like, I should be here, but I picked you to do this instead of me. Like that puts a lot of pressure, but also like response, I think, on these guys' shoulders of they understand how much this event means to him. Everyone does. And you feel that importance and you want to go out there and you want to make him think that he made the right decision. So I can't wait for the experience. I hope the fans are loud. I hope it is a raucous home field type environment. But yeah, you just hope nothing ends up crossing the line where it puts a black cloud over this event moving forward.
Totally. I have one last little bit here on the culture stuff. So when we were over in Europe for our Ryder Cup at Spey Bay, we get constantly made fun of for our chanting. And I will say that like one decisive advantage that the Europeans have is their chants. Like they're creative, they're amazing. So ours is basically just USA, USA. But I came up, I've spent some time crafting a handful that I want to run by y'all. That I think that we could do for our players. Okay. So first one is for Bryson. This is to the tune of Deo by Harry Belafonte. Bryson DeChambeau, driver booms and it goes. Thumbs up or thumb down?
Yeah, we need more of this. You're right. They are very good at this. I give it a thumbs up. I'm here for anything Bryson related.
All right. Thumb sideways. I'll give that a half point. Next one. I only have a couple of these, I promise. Patrick Cantlay. All right. To the tune of Sweet Caroline. But I also try to think about like iconic songs that everyone knows, right? Patrick Cantlay, ba ba ba, drains all the putts for USA. Patrick Cantlay. What do you think? Thumbs up, thumbs
up on that one.
Yeah, I'm with
that. Was great.
Yep.
All right. I did a lot more of these than I thought. I won't go through all of them. Scotty Scheffler, Sweet Dreams by the Eurythmics. Scotty makes putts like these. Scheffler's world number one with these.
You can clap along to that. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
I'll do two more. My second favorite is the one for Colin Morikawa, which is just the melody of Tequila by the Champs. You know, dun, 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 dun. So you do that for a while, and then you just go Morikawa. Not great. I just like it because it's stupid. And then the obvious one, Cameron Young, Forever Young by Alphaville. Just Cameron Young. All right, that's enough of that. But I think we need something, right? So if you're listening, you're watching, or you're seeing this, Cooper, we need to get the word out. We need to figure out how to get Chance going because there's some creativity in this country that is unbounded, right? And the fact that we have not applied that creativity towards supporting our Ryder Cuppers is frustrating. I planted the seed. I want to see people come up with some better ones. So give that a chance. Tweet us, and maybe you'll get some links for that.
Singer-songwriters, jingle writers of America, this is your chance. Yeah,
we need you out there. Yeah, we need them out. You got to be leading it too, because people will follow. If you're creative, people will go along with it. But you need a couple leaders out there.
100% agree. All right, so let's get to the pairings here. So Joe, we're gonna go through kind of what we've thought for both the US and the Europe side, specifically just Friday morning foursomes. Okay. So that's the first ones we're going to hear about. So we're going to start there. And then, you can also use this as a chance to talk through what you like and dislike about different pairings in general. So this is kind of a jumping off point. Cooper, I want you to give your first U.S. pairing first, and then I'll give mine. Actually, how about you give all your USA pairings? I'll give all my U.S. pairings, and then Joe, you tell us what you like and don't like about those pairings in general, or like kind of you can think through how you would do it instead, just sort of how you're thinking about that. I assume there's bets out there for this, right? People like, are there any like prediction markets on these things?
I haven't seen it with like who they're going to get paired with, but a lot of it's linked in the odds of like total points based on like how much they think you're going to play. Yeah.
Okay, so the markets at least are like baking that in when they.
Yes.
When they think, okay, so Coop, what are your Friday morning Pearsons for foursomes?
Starting off, I think it's Griffin and Morikawa paired up, and then I have Thomas Scheffler. Mentioned that. I think it's going to be a powerhouse kind of marquee pairing. DeChambeau and Spawn, I think, is another really solid grouping, and then English and Cantlay, I think, are going to be my picks for the USA's team Friday.
Okay, I have some different ones. So I have Scheffler and Griffin. I have Spawn and DeChambeau. I have Xander and Cantlay, obviously, and then I have Thomas and Young. A lot of this has to do with, from a foursomes perspective, I feel like DeChambeau can get pretty much anyone out of anything. I think he probably will drive the odd holes, although he likes to move it right to left. So there could be some challenges there. But the fact that he can take the edge off a one, so maybe he'll do the evens. But I like just pairing him with someone who's a really, really good testy putter, and I think Spawn is that. Xander and Cantlay mostly just for vibes. They get paired all the time together. It's like a pretty strong bet. And I think the only one that like I think is fairly stupid and won't happen is Justin Thomas and Cam Young. But I just, for me, I want someone who can play to the strengths of Bethpage, hit the ball really far, hit the ball pretty straight, and then a really good iron player. So based on those two groupings, what do you like and don't like about those, Joe?
Well, I think I only align with one of those pairings, and it's Pat and Xander. For mine personally, I do think, starting out, the importance of winning the first session is huge, especially for the USA, because I think that like I give us within a margin of like 2 on Sunday when we get to singles, where I still feel like we're going to win. So we've got to keep it close, particularly in these alt shot sessions where they've kind of dominated. I was looking earlier. It's interesting when they do alt shot first, the USA is 9-3 in this format. So I think that's why they kind of went with that trend. For me, I just think that Scotty plays with Russell Henley. From what I've heard, I mean, they played together at the President's Cup. They've been practicing together, not only at the Pro Core, but this week, both days. I think it's JT and Bryson up first.
Okay.
Now I'm worried about that because that takes your two biggest energy sources and puts them together. But Justin Thomas is a great putter this year. He really turned that around and has the short game and like wedge ability where he can kind of take something off his wedges with the best of them. Like nobody like slow swings a 65-yard shot better than Justin Thomas. So I think that having that ability inside of 100 yards paired with Bryson is pretty huge. And then I like Griffin and Cam Young as my last team, just because I've seen this stuff. Maybe I'm influenced by the stuff with the ball because I've seen that, Griffin plays the max flies, which I've switched to max flies now. Ben Griffin got me on board.
Good thing.
You're a max fly guy.
Are you guys max fly guys or no? You're still Pro V1X?
Nothing against them, just haven't tried them yet.
I follow my golf spy pretty close, and they're early on it. Yeah. I've big Callaway guys over here at Lynx. We love the Callaway ball, but I've been tempted to test it out. And so if you're enjoying it, you hitting the ball far?
I don't see a noticeable difference, honestly. And really the deal is they're like 2 12 packs for $70. So
yeah, man.
You get a lot more bag for your buck. But anyways, I've seen that Griffin has kind of switched to the golf ball that Cam Young uses, which is unique. So I think that could be like a little bit of a breadcrumb there. And then Bryson and Justin Thomas play the same ball as well. So those are my 4. I don't think any of those are way off the board. Like I never feel like I never get these right, and I probably dig too much into it. Then ultimately they come up and throw me a curveball. But that's kind of what I have. But I do think of any of them, Cantlay and Xander are kind of a familiar one that is a free square.
Okay. Like it. We'll see how it shakes out Friday morning. So let's do EU. I'll go first, Coop. I have Rory Fleetwood, Hovland Oberg, Rahm Hatton, Lowry Straka. And I'm sure to Joe that will be no surprise because those were the exact foursome pairings on the first day before. And I think that continuity, I would lock it in as there being a ton of continuity for, I think you mentioned this earlier, Joe, about what's brought to the table this year. And so I just sort of went chalk on that.
Yeah.
Cool.
My picks
are Shane Lowry and McIlroy, Rosie and Rahm, Oberg and Hovland, and Fleetwood and McIntyre. So
yeah, I'd probably take Greg's teams just because I think there is at least the first 3. Rory Fleetwood were great to get. Rahm Hatton is a lock. Like that'd be stupid for them not to play Rahm Hatton together, especially what they did last time. I think they hit the very first tee shot last time. They just played together in the 2v2 team championship. Legion 13 comrades there. They probably go together. Oberg, Hovland played together last time as well. I've heard rumblings that something, and I don't want to speculate, but something's up with Sepp Straka. I don't know if it's injury related, if it's personal related, but he skipped the BMW championship, which is really weird, and his form like dropped off a cliff to end the season. So I'm not sure if they roll him out there first. I think that they probably if they have concerns or if something is going on there, because he did auto qualify, it wasn't a pick. So if there's something going on there, they may not use him a lot. And, Fitzpatrick has been hot. Rasmus Højgaard has been like red hot on the DP World Tour. Now this is throwing him into the cauldron. So I don't think he'll play much, but it's going to be tough. Fitz has got Ryder Cup experience too. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him go out there with someone like Shane Lowry.
How likely are we to see like a parent trap situation where you don't really like they have both Højgaards in New York and they just throw out one of them and no one knows because they look the same?
How crazy is it that the one guy that's not on the team is literally the twin of the guy? Like that's the odds of that are like 1,000,000 to 1 of that. The one change is we go with the guy's twin brother.
Yeah. What a family that is. Just a bunch of sticks. All right. So there's one thing I want to do left, but I want to leave some space for any other thoughts before we wrap up. I do want to get predictions on what we think the final score will be. So who we think will win and what we think the final points will be. But before that, is there anything else you just feel a burning desire to talk about in the Ryder Cup? Anything else you want to share, think about, talk about before we move on to some predictions?
Nothing really. I mean, I'm just really excited. I'm super excited for Bryson. I love watching Bryson. I think that what I've seen, it felt like strategically this European team has like tried to manipulate his status as someone that could divide this USA roster with some comments that were made by Rory and the previous guys are like, he's, and even Brandel, the stuff that he's all about his YouTube channel, and he's a captain's worst nightmare. I think that like reversed, and you heard the guys today in their presser all have his back, and they're like, we love Bryson. He's a great teammate. Like we're here for him. And I think that like little situations like that can kind of galvanize this team, and they rally behind him. And frankly, they need him to. We know what we're getting from Scotty. He's our second best player, and we probably need 3.5, 4 points out of him. So they need to roll him out there a lot. He's got the biggest advantage. He can get the crowd in a frenzy, and he can go for stuff that other guys can't go for. And that's a big advantage when Bethpage, it's so long, but there's actually some short holes. The opening 2 holes are pretty short. There's also that one that's really downhill, 7 or 8 on the front. It's a really short hole. So there are going to be situations where he can get it close to the green a lot.
100%. And I think he is a much more complete player than he was at Whistling Straits as well.
Yeah.
I think his chipping has been just like out of mind for like the last year and a half. And obviously he drives a golf ball. I think he's a better putter. So I think he's the person I'm probably most watching, obviously, because he's Bryson. And again, he sucks the entire air out of every conversation in golf at this point. But if he plays well, I think I agree with you. It is going to be necessary for him to play well for the U.S. to win. I think
I really want to see him versus Rory in some sort of matchup, because like even going all the way back to Pinehurst, there was animosity there. There was Bryson getting the crowd. It was like polar opposites, right? Like Rory is like tunnel vision when in contention. Like the Masters, even at the Players, he's not looking at the crowd. He's totally locked in. He's straight face, and Bryson is using the crowd as fuel. So I think what happened going back to Pinehurst, and even Rory made comments after the Masters about Bryson, and he's like, I didn't talk to him all day, and Bryson said he wouldn't even look at him. And then the stuff now of him seeking attention, like that's the needle in this whole thing. And I really hope we get to see them two go head to head.
I think Bryce is in Rory's head much more than Rory's in Bryce's
head.
Yeah. And I think like, I don't think that Rory would agree with that, obviously. But whenever this is, in football, especially, like you talk about bulletin board material, whenever a team is creating bulletin board material, like there's something up. Like that's there's smoke, there's fire. Don't talk about the other team, because in some way, I don't know, I'm not a psychoanalyst, but I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think it's a good mindset to be in. Who would you rather watch as a fan on Sunday? Let's say 1 point is needed. Let's say it comes down to 1 point is needed, the final singles match, and it's Rory versus blank. Would you rather be that Scheffler? Or would you rather have that be Bryson? And not so much who do you think would win that, or just more like which would be better entertainment?
Bryson.
Yeah, I'm on the same page.
Yeah.
As a person who's rooting for the USA, I'd rather have him play Scheffler, though.
I agree with that as well. Coop, what about you?
Or Rosie would be my pick. We saw him in the playoff in the Masters against Rosie, right? Like we just repeat that, run that. That'd be some good entertainment.
There you go. Okay. Well, let's get to the end of what we think the final scores be. So I'll start first, because I probably will be the most wrong, although I'm going with a fairly safe bet. I think it's going to be 15-13 US. I think it's going to be close. And I think the line is like pretty fair, right? I think like whatever the implied line is on what the point total is going to be is pretty fair. And it roughly is the same reason why you see a lot of 1.5s for home teams in football games that are evenly matched, right? And I think home field advantage will play out. I am prepared to be wrong in either direction, but it's very hard for me to see a U.S. blowout. I think it's going to be close, and I think that home field gives the advantage, and we're going to see another home team win. What do y'all think?
Joe, you can go ahead, go first on this.
Yeah, I'll say 16-12. I agree it's going to be close. 15-13, 16-12. It's going to come down to Sunday singles. I think if it's close through the first 2 days, I think the U.S. team has a significant advantage in Sunday singles, 7-5, 8-4, something like that in Sunday, that kind of breaks this thing open. If they can build a lead, I can see a scenario where this thing turns into a rout. Like we didn't really see Whistling 19-9 coming before that. Those odds were pretty close as well. But I do think these teams are so evenly matched, and the European team has gotten better, that they put up one hell of a fight this week. But ultimately, the USA is going to win.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to inverse Kramer where my gut is right now and just say bet Euros crumble at Bethpage. It's an absolute blowout, 20-8.
One-upping the Whistling Straits route.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. You're manifesting, and I like it. I like it a lot.
Putting that out there.
Yeah. I mean, it's to wrap up here. I mean, we said we opened this. It's for a lot of reasons. This is the best event I think we have in golf, and it's so exciting for it to be at a place that has, the so iconic as Bethpage Black, what it means to American golf. and just Friday can't get here soon enough. I mean, I'm glad that there's some weather, so we're going to see the opening ceremonies one day earlier. I'm glad we don't have to hear Zach Johnson try to speak Italian in that, and I'm glad we don't have to then see Luke Donald come on and speak perfect Italian right after, right? So it's going to be, you get all this stuff. You get the wife and girlfriend, you get the gala, you get the pictures, you get the opening ceremonies. And I think that's the first time that we're going to get a real taste of what the New York crowd is going to be like. So this is great. Thank you so much, Joe, for hopping on. We always learn from you. We always love talking to you about this kind of stuff. We only bring you on for the big events. So, if you're going out first in singles for us when it comes to this podcast, and we very much appreciate you taking the time and hopping on. If you don't follow Joe on Twitter, definitely check out TourPicks. Do that right now. It's right there at the bottom. Go on TourPicks. And also, what's the best place to read what's the number one place you send people? Is it your Twitter account that has all your stuff on?
Definitely the Twitter account. Yeah, I have the show Preferred Lines. My partner John Hasselbauer and I will be doing a show later tonight where we're going to do our best bets, like a gold, silver, bronze situation for our 3 favorite bets for the Ryder Cup. That'll be at 8:30 tonight. If anyone's live in here and wants to check out and hear any more of me ramble about how much I love this event. But appreciate you guys as always for having me on. It's always awesome to talk to you guys. Super informed. Love everything that you're doing. I got my links. Genesis. I feel like this is like shirt maybe tripping people out. Maybe that's just my screen, or does it look like some sort of off? It's literally just a striped shirt, but yeah, happy to support the brand and keep on keeping on, fellas. It was good to talk.
Awesome. Well, very much appreciate that. Cooper, thank you for hopping on. It's an hour later where you are. So thanks for eking into the evening, but desperate times call for desperate measures. The Ryder Cup is here. We might be doing 24/7 streams in 2 years. Where they're in Ireland at what's that golf course? Where are they at?
Adair Manor.
Adair Manor. God, I don't know why I blanked on that. Yes. Adair Manor. So already thinking about the next Ryder Cup. We got one in front of us. So, and to all the listeners and all the viewers, appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for spending time with us. It always means a lot. Remember, check out Hillcrest memberships if you're interested in understanding what Hillcrest is about or what Spebe is about. Check out links.golf. You can link to both courses there, and you can also reach out and talk to us to learn more. Also follow us on Instagram and YouTube. You'll get updated every time something new goes live, including the weekly podcast, but also some of our special content like the Ryder Cup one. If you haven't checked that out, definitely do. We post a bunch of updates on what's happening in Hillcrest and Spebe on Instagram and Twitter, so give us a follow there. And if you ever want to talk to us, jump into Discord and hit us up with guest ideas, hot takes, feedback, good or bad. We'd love to hear it. And we very, very much appreciate your support and the time. And man, this weekend is going to be awesome. So enjoy the Ryder Cup. Have a great time, no matter what side you're on, and enjoy it. Appreciate it. We'll see y'all soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.